Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Alex Seno. I'm an architecture and art critic based in Hong Kong. And it's my pleasure today to host the first Salon le Voile session, which is a discursive platform from which we will explore contemporary Saigon. Today, we will have a first look at this really exciting and pioneering project, which is in the heart of downtown Saigon. And for that, I turn you over to Hannah, who is in Ho Chi Minh today, to give you that first look.
Hello, everyone. I am Hannah, the manager of Villa le Voile. Villa le Voile is located in District 3, a central district in Ho Chi Minh City, and is within walking distance to important heritage sites and monuments. The villa will turn 100 in 2030, is one in a handful of private heritage buildings that is the most magnificent and great in scale from the colonial era. Today, I'd like to give you a virtual tour of the villa, and hopefully through this, you can also see a very different side of Saigon. In this map of Saigon in 1921, we cannot see the villa yet. This is because the villa was constructed between 1927 and 1930. This is a quote from Thieu Sheng, an author and famous journalist, who vividly painted the contrasting shades of Saigonese life. For visiting observer, Saigon is full of life, chaos, and complexity. But there are still undisturbed places, noble minds, and beautiful souls left in Saigon. Although his quote is from the 40s, it still resonates with Saigon today. This is a map of Saigon in 1942. As you can see, the villa is already present on this map. Cesare Brandi, who is a founding father of modern restoration philosophy, defines restoration as the methodological moment in which the work of art is recognized in its physical being and its dual aesthetic and historical nature, in view of its transmission to the future. In line with this idea of restorations, Villa le Voile respects the historicity of all elements within, as they are witnesses of time. We would like to read an excerpt from Lý Lang's poem, Vạn Dặm, which beautifully illustrates the long and rewarding journey of restoration we have embarked on, slowly unveiling Villa le Voile eclectic beauty. Overcame a 3-inch space of longing, 50 million steps to reach 10,000 miles. It takes 100 years to finish this distance. Meng Hui, a renowned researcher of classical lifestyle and culture, described the essence of femininity in her book, A Portrait of Beauty, as such, to create a scenery that is fully her own, that follows her footsteps, that is alive, to craft her silhouette into undying poetry and paint scrolls. A serendipitous discovery, these painted Chinese ghosts and fairies embodies a poetic femininity, not defined by physical traits, but rather spiritual elegance. French novelist Marguerite Duras, who wrote The Lover, she lived in the villa adjacent to Villa le Voile, recollects a sunset on the balcony of Khu Testa. He tells me I'll remember this afternoon all my life, even when I've forgotten his face and name. It was a few months before our final parting in Saigon, late one evening. We were on a big terrace of the house in Khu Testa. Villa le Voile would like to be the storykeeper of Saigon, reviving old story while creating new ones. And this is the villa as it stands today. Thank you everyone for joining us on this short virtual tour.
Thank you so much for that, Hannah. Such a beautiful building and a wonderful project. Today, we also have with us the rest of the team that has worked on this project, which has spanned Florence, Hong Kong, as well as Ho Chi Minh. I would like to ask the first question to Emanuele, who is president of Palazzo Spinelli. Emanuele, what do you feel are the most urgent issues with regards conservation and restoration with regards heritage structures?
Well, first of all, good evening to everybody. I want to just say that in more than 45 years of works around the world, this is the first time that we have carried out a restoration project of this scale in Asia. And we see the vision behind the action is a truly groundbreaking. There are many aspects that makes the Villa le Voile truly special. For me personally, uncovering the original paintings from beneath the layers and the original meaning that the decorators of the villa intend to create is the most exciting. But I think the work we're doing together with the other partners involved and with the local experts, it must be taken as an example for others to follow. In the past, in fact, many people have approached historical buildings and often they judged them expendable or to be completed as swept aside. Thankfully, today, situation is different. We can see that the trend is going towards a more sustainable revitalization of historical location. That's a good news that must be seen in extremely positive direction. As a Palazzo Spinelli, as our company, our main scope is to respect the past while reinforcing the country's heritage, offering strong awareness for future generations. The recovery of memory comes hand in hand with the recovery of a functional place in society, enabling services to be provided in a mechanism that create valorization, development, through a glance to the future, to the eye of the past in a way. The conservation of the villa represents today an example to transfer and share, a unique example of a place that could be almost be a museum itself in a way, bridging between culture and different countries, becoming a vibrant part of contemporary society and giving an immersive cultural experience to visitors. In this sense, in fact, it would be very important, for example, offer to the visitors the opportunity of experience and living the villa, to explore, to study, to feel the work we made inside. For Saigon, Villa le Voile reveals original paintings that most of the people would never been seen or heard of. Finally, I can say that Palazzo Spinelli, from a more managerial point of view, we had to give a clear technical direction of the work by balancing a cooperation between the Florentine techniques and tradition and experience and the character of Vietnam culture. With the aim of establishing, first of all, a cultural dialogue to give life to the scientific imprint of the villa, and then, of course, to transmit that knowledge and awareness to future generation of students, leaving behind a permanent impact on local communities. So this is our main scope of the work. Thank you.
Thank you. I should also probably add that Palazzo Spinelli has worked on over 500 projects with about 500 organizations in over 100 countries. So being able to do this in Vietnam now is terribly exciting. So we have Giacomo, who's on the ground in Ho Chi Minh at the moment. Giacomo, what has been the challenge of working on this project for you?
For me, I think that conceptually we have to explain our point of view in the importance of restoration. It's different from Asian perspective in general, and we need to share different cultural approaches. my point of view is that we have grown up in our culture, and the most important thing in the restoration work is the preservation of the original material. I consider the main objective of my work as being to have brought back the wall paintings with the greatest possible respect for the original material that makes up the works. The material, which is sometimes overlooked, is itself a work of art and not just a means of conveying a message or an emotion. If we were to limit ourselves to the aesthetic results alone, we could make works on computer, print them, and repurpose them. Materials, with their natural deterioration, transmit to us the past and the time that is passing, as well as history. They have been used with the skills of the time, chosen and worked as they knew how to do at the time they were used. Having said this, our current pictorial intervention must be useful for understanding the original material, supporting it, enhancing it, and must not be interpretative or superimposed on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to talk about the building itself. We have today team members from Stonewest, Matthew, who's in Hong Kong, and Ali, who's in Ho Chi Minh. Stonewest has worked on a number of important sites that have been adapted for reuse. Most recently, Stonewest has worked on Tai Kwun in Hong Kong, as well as the St. Pancras Station in London. Matthew, what have you found to be the trend with regards adapting heritage buildings for contemporary use? And what have been the issues around that?
Okay, well, first of all, again, hello everyone, and thanks for having me. So trends in conservation in Asia. Certainly what I see is that there is definitely, the trend is for conservation and adaptive reuse of built heritage to play a much, much greater role in the revitalization and development of Asian cities. Whereas perhaps in the past, the agendas of organizations and communities that were concerned with heritage was perhaps overlooked, maybe due to short-term economic initiatives, or maybe just even that we wasn't fully aware what role cultural landmarks could play in society. Like I said, there has definitely been a shift, and now unquestionably there is a more widespread adoption of heritage conservation when it comes to actually developing the long-term strategy for cities. Again, perhaps the trigger for this is definitely there is an increase in number of local people who are beginning to express awareness about conservation, and maybe it's been spiked in several cases by negative instances. Say, for example, you had the Star Ferry demolition in central Hong Kong, and I believe there was also quite a similar instance in Saigon where a ferry terminal was demolished, unfortunately. But one good impact of this, at least, is that there is now certainly an increased awareness and increased demand from communities and from the public for heritage protection. On top of this, of course, governments are now realizing that buildings, areas, customs, landmarks, really anything that can preserve a significant aspect of previous lifestyle is important, not only just for the quality of life of the local people, but also in terms of international competitiveness, investment, and tourism. So this means that one of the trends is that the local governments are moving from a stage whereby they protect listed buildings to actually now we're seeing initiatives and legislation whereby they're encouraging investment and private enterprises to become involved in heritage conservation and reuse the buildings, which is obviously a fantastic thing. So like I said, the result of all this is that heritage buildings are being reused, but not only are they being reused, they're being reused in a sustainable way, whereby they have a viable economic future. And as it was alluded to by Emanuele, they're not just standalone landmarks or even museums anymore, which are kind of unavailable or unapproachable to the public, but they're actually becoming public spaces which can be utilized and valued by the whole community. And certainly, I believe, you know, this is one of the fantastic things about the villa is that it's not becoming a museum. It's not becoming a standalone thing behind a gate. It's a public space which the whole community around the district and around Saigon and around Vietnam can cherish for the future.
Exciting. Hi, Ali. Ali, how long have you been in Ho Chi Minh now working on this? Ali?
Just over 3 years.
Ah, and so tell us, what has the experience been like?
For us, for Stonewest, it's been tremendously exciting to be part of what is a very pioneering restoration project, both here in Saigon and Vietnam. And we have been extremely fortunate to be the custodians of the villa in recent years. Stonewest has had a huge scope of works, starting with the removal of the non-original buildings and fixtures and fittings, which can be seen on some of our PowerPoints, to get the landscape layout back to the original. We carefully salvaged items for reuse, not necessarily on the villa project because they weren't from the original buildings, but hopefully for other projects. All elements were assessed going forward as to whether they would undergo conservation, restoration, or repair, sometimes a combination of all, but always using historic building techniques and like-for-like materials. We then set about securing the actual structure of the building, the re-roofing, extensive repairs to the I-beams within the floors and ceilings, and that's the decorated ceilings that needed to be secured in order for Spinelli's to complete their decorative works, and right down to the foundations. We then went on to the more aesthetic repairs, the highly decorative plaster enrichments, the beautifully fine joinery, the shaded curtains, doors and windows, and the historic metalwork and tiling. Actually, if we just stay on this slide for a second, we were very fortunate to work with an amazing company here in Vietnam to produce, these are cement on caustic tiles, which were to match the originals. And obviously they used totally historic techniques with making the molds. We were able to go to their factories and watch the process. We went through probably 5 or 6 rounds of sampling to get the colors and the patterns to match the originals. What we did find, however, was some of the items that we had assumed before we came that we would be able to get manufactured here, such as the highly decorative roof ridges and finials, of which we have over 200 meters of ridges and 16 large person-sized finials. Due to a combination of factors, there's little Truck. He is quite tall, actually. I did have a picture of me there, but yeah, so they're truly person-sized. Due to a combination of factors, the quantity is low for manufacturing in terms of manufacturing here compared to new build, and consequently the value of the work is quite low. So we found for these items that actually companies were not interested in carrying out these works. So as a company, we had to really bite the bullet and decide that we would carry out these works in-house. So we increased our resources. We then went through training sessions with our expat, Mr. Paul and Mr. James, as they were known to the workforce, and in the silicon mold making and in the casting, and then finally in the fixing of the decorations on the roofs. We were extremely proud of how the workers took to these new skills. and applied these techniques. And fundamentally, we're really glad that we did carry out this work in-house, because it's a very important part of the villa. And for me, without doubt, when our workers walk past the villa in 20, 30 years to come with their children or their grandchildren, they will point up at these magnificent decorations and regale tales of their time at the villa, which is obviously very important. We hope that the project will bring a greater understanding of both the cultural and historic value of buildings here in Saigon and Vietnam, and the need and importance of preserving them for the future generations. Our aim has been really to transfer knowledge, skill, and passion to these future generations, in order that they in turn are inspired to preserve other great and important buildings such as the villa. It's been, it's been a pleasure to work on this building.
Thank you, and thank you for all those images. This aspect of working with students, that has been an important part of this project, Emanuele. How did you work with local craftsmen and students in throughout the process?
I may say that that is one of the basic the key points when we start this this activity in Saigon and in the villa. The involvement of experts, and particularly involvement of students from different universities, different courses, etc. Because it's part of our mission. We are basically also a school of art and restoration. So every time we had the possibility to involve students and to give them the opportunity to touch with their hands, to see how it's possible to reveal paintings or to clean stones or what else in a place of work, I think that is very important for them to understand how it's important to work on the conservation, on the revitalization of a cultural heritage. Because, most of the time they are study our history, they study the culture of country, but that is only a part, and I would say only a few parts of an experience of working in cultural heritage. So that's why we want to work with the students. And I have to say an important thing, that in all the experience we had with the students, we found very keen, very active students. The will they show towards our teachers, with our restorers, to learn, to study, the application, the idea of they want to work was very high. It was a very value. So we are positive, and we believe that Vietnam could have a great future in terms of conservation, restoration of cultural heritage, because the students were very, very active in this sense.
That's the thing, though, with so many fast-moving, quickly changing cities. It's often easier and possibly cheaper to knock something down and build something new, right? Which is why I think this aspect is also quite interesting in the context of Ho Chi Minh. Hannah, how would you say this project, what does this project mean to contemporary Vietnam? It's a young country. It's also changing very fast. What does the villa mean in the contemporary context?
Thanks, Alex. That's a very good question. Although as a Vietnamese, there is so much I want to personally share. I think there are two main aspects to this question. In its tangible form, especially its architectural and artistic elements. The villa embodies the multiculturalism that is embraced by this city, its people, its cuisine, and its architecture. The eclectic nature of this building illustrate the point exactly that Saigon is not about what is authentically Saigonese or not. Rather, it's about celebrating these many cultural streams and creating one unique culture and identity of our own. In its intangible form, I believe that the villa's role is to become the bridge between the past and the future. From the very beginning, we do not envision the restored villa to become a temple of the past, rather to make the villa live and breathe in the 21st century of Vietnam. In this sense, I believe that our future programming and function will assign a very different role to heritage buildings than what is being offered currently.
And how will that manifest itself? So several years of work has gone into the building. We are hoping that it will be completed sometime at the end of next year, and hopefully we can all visit as well. Hannah, how do you see this building fitting into life today in Saigon?
As you all may know, in the future, we plan to have many programs and functions that include some exhibitions and also cultural programs, and also F&B, food and beverage business over in the villa. And we hope that this will bring a life to the villa. And as Matt also said just now, to make it lively, to make it not a temple of the past, but also a new space where the public can join in and enjoy the space at the villa, and also, you know, understand about it and spend time with it, not only now, next year, but also in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. So at this point, I'm sure people have questions. Again, I invite you to type your questions in. I will read some of the questions that we already have and direct it to members of the team who have worked on this. So please use the chat box to ask your questions. The first question I have on me is, can you tell us a little more about the history of the building itself? Who built it? Why was it built? And what was it? You know, what other lives has it had? Maybe Hannah, you can answer that as well.
Yes, thanks, Alex. Thanks, the audience. The exact date where the villa is constructed is unknown. However, we have gleaned from studies that the villa was constructed between 1927 and 1930 in one of Saigon's most desirable districts, a preferred residential area of the elite during that time, Khu Testa. The villa was since witnessed significant historical events in Saigon, such as the French colonial rule and the First Indochina War, and the Vietnam War. And the information regarding who was the owners of the villa was limited, but we do know there are two owners, and the new owners, which is Minerva Corporation now in the present time. Yeah.
And it was also a school, right? And other kind of meeting points.
Yeah, it used to be in his history line. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. We have quite a few questions, so I'm just going to quickly go through them. First is from Philip Hemnall, who's in Saigon. And the question, I think, is more for Stonewest. How do you integrate modern A&E seamlessly into a heritage structure?
Yes. Oh, this is always a difficult one, and is something that obviously we're working through at the moment. We're working with the client team and the designers. So essentially, we will have plans that are forwarded to us, and then we will look at discussions about and have, you know, full in-depth discussions as to what is respectful to the building and minimal intervention to the building, which often will, the same as in England, we'll often end up with probably surface mounted wiring in some instances, because it's better than actually trying to embed within the actual structure of the building. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of discussion and a lot of trying to find the best way for the building, and so, something that can be removed in future without having caused disruption to the fabric.
Yeah, I think we can have a whole session actually to kind of figure out how all of
We're
that.
still doing it now. It's still going back and forth.
Yeah, it's really, I'm fascinated by how you integrate stuff like that, air conditioning or even engineering facilities. Never easy. Question from Cheryl from the South China Morning Post. This is more a businessy question, so I'm going to direct this to Hannah. She has several questions, but a summary of which is, why did Minerva Corporation, which is supporting the restoration and conservation of the villa, choose to restore this particular building? And does it make, does the restoration mean that it will elevate rental, lease, kind of sales prices in the area? And do you have an estimate for this?
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. So the reason why, I would have to first introduce Minerva Corporation first. So Minerva Corporation is dedicated to the preservation and promotion of Vietnam tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Underpinning this missions is a desire to sustainable vision for Vietnam, in which traditions and heritage live in harmony with change and modernity. Minerva Corporation aims to put heritage as the forefront of every development projects, and in hope of creating a long-lasting positive impact on the Vietnamese cultural and heritage landscape. And also, these are characteristics, or these are what Minerva Corporation is aiming at. That would say the villa is perfectly fit in what Minerva Corporation is doing. And for the future business, I think it's still quite an early time to, like specifically answer these questions. But rather, I would say let's wait until the fourth quarter of next year, 2022, when the villa is open its door to welcome all the guests. So you can have a look at what the villa is at that time. Yeah.
Yes, and I should also stress that this is really the first of a series of conversations, and I think throughout the coming months, more of the villa will be unveiled, and we will see a lot more of how the project is developing. So there are several questions from Professor P.P. Ho, who is a renowned scholar and architectural historian, who has also done quite a few adaptive reuse conservation projects of heritage. So he has several questions, and I'm going to pick out a few. One is, how do you measure the appropriateness of the new purpose of this building? So maybe that's really more for Hannah. So how did you decide that this would be a good use of a building like this? And then there's a second question. What is the financial provision for the constant maintenance and periodic conservation of the villa? Maybe not exact numbers, but that particular question, I think I will direct to either Emanuele or Ali or Matt, because that's really more a question of how much more work has to be done, I think, even after you open the facility. So Hannah, that first question, how do you decide that this would be a good use of, so the building had been a home, and then it was a club, and then it was a school, and then it is going to become this cultural space. How did you determine that this would be an appropriate function, a new life for this building?
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for your interest as first. So as we said from the very beginning, we do not see the restored villa when it is complete its restoration as a temple of the past, but we want to make the villa live and breathe the modern Vietnam. So rather to make it becomes an open space and offer a chance to the public to come and enjoy the building. That is our main purpose, to make it live and breathe the new modern time. Yeah.
Wonderful. Before I throw the question over to either Matt, Emanuele, or Ali, I also just want to remind everyone that if we don't get through your questions, if you want to write in, we will, at the end of the session, there will be an email address, and we will do our best to get back to you. Who would like to take that question? How much more work is there to do once you open a building? How much more conservation can one expect to commit to? Matt, Ali, or Emanuele?
So essentially, from my point of view, then it will be essential that we will put together a maintenance manual, essentially, and that will have guidance on what repetitive or ongoing works are needed, whether that's in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. Traditionally, buildings will have like quinquennials done, where works are, ongoing works are planned. Without doubt, maintenance is the key to preservation, and many buildings, if they had been maintained in their timescales, it would never get to the extreme case of the works that's needed. For example, just general things, roof repairs, emptying of guttering, making sure gutters aren't blocked and overflowing. So without doubt, we would certainly recommend there would be a small maintenance team that is kept, and that they are people who have actually been trained during the works, as opposed to probably getting in a general maintenance contractor who would not have an understanding of the building. So obviously that's something we'll discuss nearer the time of the building being complete. But certainly for buildings to stay functioning, there will always be maintenance, and always be repair.
Yeah. So one characteristic of this building is that it has really beautiful frescoes on the walls. Emanuele, how much, now that you have restored these paintings, how much more maintenance will be needed in future?
Well, I agree with Ali. We will leave at the end of the work, we leave a protocol of intervention in case of damages, or, for example, some scratches, etc., for visitors and so on. But by the end, the maintenance is the first step. If we leave the villa, if we leave a place and we maintain the place, we take care of everything. The work that we have done in conserve and restore the frescoes, the paint, the decorative elements will continue in time. This is the basis, by the way. But the problem would be in the moment in which we will have some damages on, for example, paintings, frescoes, etc. The intervention on that damages must be done under a specific protocol in terms of intervention, because at the contrary, we will have differences in terms of shapes, of colors, etc., and it will disequilibrate in a way the entire shape of the villa, entire meaning of the decorative, speaking of the decorative elements.
Okay, so question from Jana Rock, an architect from Make Architects in London. What interior fit out functions will you include? Who is designing them? And what is the total square meter of the villa? So who would like to take that? Maybe Ali?
I think that will probably, I know the total square meterage is 2,500. But with regards to the interior design, at the moment, the interior design package has just been finalized, and we will be going through that probably within the next week. So I don't think the details are out yet as to who is doing that.
Thank you. Question from Nick Wilson. Well, a nice compliment. He says, you have clearly broken new ground with your project at the villa, which looks amazing. Are there signs that others are following your initiative? So either Ali or Emanuele? I guess these are there other projects like this in Vietnam or in Asia?
Obviously, we have seen that there have been some other building works going on, but those are more government works down at the cathedral. We have seen some other works going on. I would hope that once the villa is open to the public, I think that will generate a lot more interest. Obviously, it's been quite difficult times, and we've been shut. You know, the country's been quite limited with tourists and even movements in recent months. But certainly now, the interest. You know, we've got the hoarding, we've got the boards around the hoarding. People can see the scaffolds down, so interest is definitely, you know, ramping up, and hopefully from that, more movement will come.
A little bit, just to add on to Ali answers just now, our interior design is conducted by JJ Acuna and ALT. Both companies are from Hong Kong, and more information regarding the architecture and also future plan of the villa can be seen at villalevon.com, our website. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, a question from EC. I think this one is for Emanuele. How many students are involved in the project, and what kind of role do they play in restoration and conservation?
But you mean inside the villa?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We had
how many students and how?
How? Okay. The main point is that we sign agreement with the different universities in Saigon, and through inside the program of conservation, program of arts, architecture, etc. We host students in terms of education. So we give them first a theoretical education, and then we offer them the opportunity to test what they learned in the walls under the strict control of our restorers. So the mechanism is a mechanism that, for example, we use normally in Italy, in which they study in our courses, and they go then to work in some places to restore, etc. About the number of students, it's a hard question for me. I think that maybe Giacomo is more he has a more idea of the numbers. I mean, there are lots. Giacomo, do you know how many students we had for the moment?
They changed during the time. Sometimes there was 50 students, sometimes maybe 20. So they changed along the time.
In generale, in totale, quanti ne abbiamo avuti? 200.
Totally, maybe 200, 150.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
they moved.
But I'd like well, my experience with students from local universities who are working with us has been incredible, an incredible cultural exchange. Taking into account the difference in the initial approach, I found that the young Vietnamese who came into contact with me and with our way of conceiving a restoration work site has some difficulty at first in understanding, probably because we are focused on the small portion of work we were doing at the time. But little by little, with the time and with the increase of the work surface, they began to see what would be the final goal. After these 2 years of work around, those same students give me a great satisfaction because they fully understand our mission, our goal, and share it. I think it's a wonderful experience for everyone, for me and for them.
And in many ways, really just the beginning, right? I'm going to read a comment rather than a question. This is from Michael Beer. He says, with regards to the existing with adaptive reuse, this has a lower carbon footprint than new build. With the current attention being paid to global warming, should not more attention be given to something like this? So I think that's a general comment. Then we have something, another comment question from Professor P.P. Ho, who was formerly in Hong Kong, but is now at the National University of Singapore, where he is custodian of 2 houses, a house museum, and the other is a living conservation lab. So he's throwing this out maybe to Stonewest or to Palazzo Spinelli. Do you think a network of historic houses, there can be, do you think there can be a network of historic houses in Southeast Asia so that such a program can be provided and offered more widely? And so, you know, for the exchange of ideas, the exchange of experiences.
Yeah, I may say that's a good point. It's a very important point because the experience we have now in Villa le Voile is a unique experience, but it's based on cultural heritage impact in the territory, and is absolutely necessary from my point of view to open our experience to other similar situations that can be faced, can be approached. We have to understand that the mechanism of conservation restoration change side by side. When I used to say to my students, to the people, that to restore a piece of art is like a medical, a medicine that works on a patient. Every patient is different from the other. So we have a protocol, but we have to see the analysis. I mean, you have to see what is exactly that situation, the process. But the networking is fundamental. I mean that we have to start think about creating a networking in the area that will offer to the people, to the students, to the experts, to the architects, and to all the persons inside a wide vision of the cultural heritage of Southeast Asia. That is important.
Thank you.
Yes, and just to add to this, thank you so much, Dr. Ho, for your interest in this. And actually, our answer is yes. We think that it is totally possible to have this network. And the fact is there's so much shared history and experiences and story in Southeast Asia that we would like to leverage this common identity. We believe that heritage preservation is top-down as much as it is bottom-up, and having associations as such to really help with this.
Thank you. Matthew, did you want to add something?
I mean, certainly, I'm in agreement with the other speakers. I mean, any kind of collaboration that we can have across the region, like I explained in my piece, you know, I think the trends in Asia are all going in the same direction. So obviously, what you do have though is you have, say, for example, in Singapore, where the heritage sector could be defined more as more mature, whereas maybe Hong Kong, it's slightly a little bit back down the path, but getting there. And then you've got other countries that I've experienced in sort of Myanmar and Saigon, whereby they're maybe at the beginning of the story, and any collaboration and assistance we can from people in Singapore or is obviously is going to help.
Thank you. Okay, so I think I have time for one more question, and this one is from Mayho, and I think this is best answered by Ali. The process of finding the right people, contractors, specialists, craftsmen, locally, how do you balance finding people who have the skills with international standards, as well as, does it make sense to bring in, how many workers do you bring in, or how many people internationally do you bring in to work on something like this?
Okay, so for us, for this project, at the outset, we brought in 2 expat specialists, plaster specialist, and more general conservation specialist. We started off with a fairly small team, of a small direct team of 15 people, local people. What we find here is everyone tends to be multi-skilled, so they're not trade disciplined like we would have more in the UK. So someone is not just a bricklayer or just a plasterer. They will have multi-skilled. So then we set about, under the guidance of our specialists, we undertook a series of workshops and gave everyone an opportunity really to try each discipline, so we could identify immediately who kind of had a connection, or who showed ability in one field, and then we would train them further in that particular field. What we found was we would do a group of 15, and then we would add. We couldn't start with a group of 50 because it would have just been unmanageable, because then we wouldn't have the ability to oversee the works being progressed. So we started off with 15, then we'd add another 5, and then maybe another 5, so we could repeat the process. And we found that that worked very well. But without doubt, we've put a lot of training into our teams, but they have all taken that training and learnt, and now with our expats, experts have gone home, and our teams are doing the work just under general guidance.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we're just about we've run out of time. I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure in the last few weeks talking to the team and learning more about this really special project. Thank you, Hannah, Ali, and Giacomo in Ho Chi Minh. Thank you, Emanuele in Florence. Thank you to Matthew in Hong Kong. If you have any questions, again, you are most welcome to send them to the email here on the screen, villalevoile@finpartners.com. The villa also has an Instagram and a Facebook. So looking forward to future Salon le Voile and wishing everybody a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.